Welcome to this special edition of the podcast to celebrate the launch of the You've Got This book. On today's episode, I'm letting you in behind the scenes of the interview I did with Jenny Lefcourt, who kindly contributed to the book. Jenny is a general partner at Freestyle, but before that, she went to Stanford Business School and dropped out to found weddingchannel.com. This was a time when people didn't use the internet as we do now, and it was a whole new concept to have a wedding registry online. But Jenny did an incredible job, and now she works with a range of other companies as an angel investor and also as a general partner at Freestyle. In addition, she co-founded All Raise, which is a non-profit to increase the diversity in tech. Incredible interview. I think you're going to love it. Jenny is so full of wisdom, and I'm so grateful for her time on this. So I've obviously done quite a lot of reading about you and how amazing you are and everything you've done. But could you just sort of recap, particularly from obviously the writing point of view and from the podcast, how you got to be where you are? Because now obviously you invest in lots of other companies through Freestyle, but that's not how it all started.
Yeah. So, I'm 54 years old. So if I take you all the way back, it's kind of a long journey, but really, So do you want me to go all the way back, or do you want me to give me a little guidance if you don't mind?
I was reading about when you started the wedding channel and how that all worked. I thought that might be quite a nice place to start.
Okay, that's a fine place to start. So basically, I had been living out in Silicon Valley for a few years, working at a software company, doing marketing, and had really wanted to go to Stanford Business School. I just almost had like a obsession with Stanford because everyone I was working with had gone to Stanford, loved Stanford. And I was like, you know what, I'll apply to get my MBA there. So I did, and I got in. And in my first year being there, it wasn't a class, but there was an extracurricular kind of thing that you could do, which is put together a business plan and then and learn how to put together a business plan, and then you present it, and then judges would be there from venture capital. You get feedback, and that sounded really neat to me because I didn't know that much about venture capital, but what I had heard I had liked, and I was interested. So I asked a woman in my class who I'd been seeing at the same kind of gatherings, hey, would you like to work on this with me? And she said, sure. She said, but do you have any ideas? And I said, I do. And I gave her my idea, and her mouth dropped open. She's like, oh my God, I wrote a business plan for this like a year ago, but I hadn't followed through with it. So we kind of got our two ideas together, which was then aggregating gift registries for wedding gift registries. And so making it really easy for then gift buyers to buy online. So what I mean by that is we felt strongly that women or that couples would still want to register with their favorite stores, but that the gift buyers wouldn't need. Actually, I'm going to pause for a second and just say the timing is kind of important, and that Amazon had launched books. So the internet was brand new. And people were hesitant to buy things online unless they really understood what they were getting. So Amazon doing books was perfect. Like, the title, the book, and you're comfortable buying it online. You don't need to touch it, feel it to find comfort. And so we felt like gift buying on the internet also made sense, because if I have registered at Williams-Sonoma for that all-clad pan, if you're my guest, you don't need to touch and feel the pan. You just want to find something I want in your price range, and that's something you'd feel comfortable clicking to buy. And so we worked on that plan. We did well in the competition, but it got way more interesting after the competition, in that one of the venture capitalists at a top tier fund called Kleiner Perkins said, hey, guys, this is really interesting. Are you really working on this, or were you just doing it for the competition? And that really kicked us into gear, and we started working on it heartily, and was meeting with all kinds of people to help us along the way, including retailers and VCs, et cetera. And by the end of our first year, we had funding for what is now weddingchannel.com. And so it was a really wild time and a wild ride you're talking about 1998, to receive funding from a top tier fund, drop out of business school to start what is now, I guess, I don't know if I can say but like one of the top wedding I think it probably has the most wedding registries. So I'll pause there. Sorry, I'm a little all over the place before I carry on. Do you want me to keep going, or do you have any questions?
No, I mean, I think that was really interesting because you started off on one course, you changed course because of the feedback you'd got. I mean, obviously, on the way to starting.
Wait, I don't understand. What do you mean we changed based on feedback?
Sorry, so you were when you were at university, is this what you had envisaged, or was it the direct response because that person, the VC, said to you, is this just a project or is this a really serious thing?
Oh, right. So I mean, at that time, we were excited by it, but I think we probably would have stopped.
Yeah.
Except that he said, this is super interesting for real. And I mean, all it took was a 2-sentence email for us to say, actually, we should actually look into this for real, knowing the time would be now, because it almost felt too obvious that others would do it. And in fact, when we went to drop out of business school, the dean said, why don't you just wait a year and do it after you finish business school? And we said, the opportunity won't be there. And at the time, he didn't really understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. And then what were the sort of blocks that got in your way between saying, yeah, we're going for it, and actually launching weddingchannel.com?
Oh, there were so many blocks because, first of all, we had to get the funding. And to get the funding, they needed to know that the retailers would actually join. So we were trying to sign up the retailers, being 2 young women with no company and no money. You know what I mean? So it's like how you get your party started. And so luckily we got high enough in the retailers to get them to say, we would want to do this if you were well funded, if the other retailers join. So it's like piece by piece to then get the VCs to say, okay, we believe this is viable. They then spoke to the retailers and they gave us some money, but it was still, I mean, the biggest block was getting the retailers to sign on with us because we were nobody. And so we had to do a lot of education with the retailers to convince them this is real. The internet is here, because these guys weren't on the internet yet. Internet is here. The wedding gift registry space is sort of the first obvious place, sort of before really e-commerce, for these reasons. And here's what we're doing, and you're going to want to be a part of it. And so we'd use analogies at the time that you wouldn't have to use today, but telling a retailer, like, it's like hearing that the best mall in the world is going to be built and every customer is going to go to it. You want to be there. And so we tried to align ourselves with their interests, where rather than charging them to be a part of it, we were just saying, and we'll just take a commission. We'll take a piece of the revenue if and when we sell products for you. And so I think that helped as well.
So that's keeping it really very low risk for them, isn't it? You're definitely taking the risk. We were taking the risk in that, just to get them to get that confidence in you and your concept.
Well, we felt that way, but these are big, important brands who had spent, I don't know how many years, hundreds of years. I don't know when these brands got started, 50 years building their brand. And so to loan their brand to a little startup that barely exists felt very risky for them.
Sure.
So we may not view it as risky, but they felt that it was risky. And so, yeah, and then it got interesting because, once again, times were so different. We had to build every piece of code from scratch, right? Like every line of code had to be written by an engineer that worked for our team. We had to have our own servers. So it's not like the world how it exists today. And so it took a while to then from starting to get the funding and building it and integrating with the retailer systems to actually launch. And in that time, then it got really clear that the internet was going to be massively important to retailers. And so some of them actually started to have pause and say, wait, this is too important. In the beginning, we were convincing them that it's real and it's here and they should participate. And then in, the year before we launched, it was like, wait, this is too important. And in fact, if we're going to help build this company, we want a piece of it. So we ended up, originally, we didn't want the retailers investing in the company because we wanted to stay sort of Switzerland. But we ended up, for some of them, that was they had to invest in order to participate because they thought it was going to be too strategic and too important and too valuable. And so we ended up actually having them participate in the funding of the company.
Do you worry when you were, because obviously, as you say, it's not like today. Now you could start up an e-commerce business. You can, get a website for very little. You can buy a plugin and it works.
Yeah.
that kind of lack of knowledge from everyone's point of view about the nuts and bolts of how it was going to work, did you find that a block, or did you sort of outsource it to relevant people and you kind of understood that almost sort of intuitively?
We brought in a technical co-founder out of the gate. And that was part of Kleiner Perkins saying, hey, we're going to give you this money, but you two are not technical and you're going to need a technical leader. And so it's not that technical people knew how to do it. It's just that we didn't know how to do it. So we brought in someone who could lead that team.
Sure. When you were, well, even during this period or even, afterwards, have you ever had a kind of lack of confidence or self-belief in your idea or concept? Just thinking with Wedding Channel, obviously it was such a big thing that hadn't been done before, and with people sort of doubting you because, as you say, you didn't have that background at that point. Did you ever have that lack of confidence or self-belief?
I mean, I'm sure we did. I think we were less focused on like, can we do it? And more just focus on, oh gosh, it's going to be us versus a lot of other people. We better go fast. And so we were stressed and constantly working, had, many doubts of like, can we pull this off? But it wasn't so much like, I don't think we ever doubted that this should exist in the world, or that consumers would love it, retailers would win from it. So yes, we doubted certain things, but I don't think we doubted sort of the fundamentals.
Sure, that makes sense. When you had the sort of big goal in mind about what you were trying to do, how did you, or the big vision, probably is a better word, how did you tackle that and start to break it down into actionable steps? Because I think for so many entrepreneurs, like starters, we look at the whole big vision and just get completely overwhelmed by it all. And that can really be very negative towards progress and progression.
Yeah, so it's funny. I didn't know this about myself at the time, but I now realize that there's something that I'm good at is making the complex simple. And so you can, like, I can be in a board meeting and there could be 50 slides and everyone's talking about a bunch of things. It's like, wait, that's the one thing that's going to make or break us right here, right now. So it's like that ability to almost have a simple view of the world, versus some people are like deep thinkers. I often make a joke that I'm a simple thinker, but I am, I think that I can see really clearly, like in stages, like in this next milestone, all we need to do is A, B, C. And like the rest is sort of noise. Now, I will say we had help. The reason I think I found that skill is the VC at the time was really good about being super clear. Like, hey guys, don't get all caught up in PR and your logo and all the stuff that you're telling me you're working on. That will not make or break your business. What will are getting the retailer signed up. So when you come in, we have a board meeting, don't confuse what really matters with what's just stuff you have to get done. And so that was really, really helpful to have someone on our team with wisdom, with guidance, kind of keeping us focused on what mattered versus what didn't. And then I think in time we built that muscle ourselves, and probably why I'm good at it today for my founders.
So that's kind of a way that you help to, I guess, deal with that overwhelm and just start breaking it down to what's the one thing that really matters.
Yeah. And it's not one thing, it's three things. But it's like, yes, I work very closely with founders to say what's going to make or break you versus just something that you get done. Like a logo, just get it done. It's not going to make or break you. You can change it one day. That's not what's going to make or break your company. But there's typically things that will make or break your company. Like in our case, we had to sign up the retailers. We had to get the retailers promoting us, right? We had to, so there were a number of things that would, and those things change over time. Every time you knock down a wall, you have another one in front of you, of the thing that will make or break you. So it's not like it always stays the same. It's very stage specific.
And now, obviously, in your position at Freestyle, you invest in lots of different companies, and there's some really, well-known ones. You were investors in Patreon, weren't you?
The firm did. That was not one that I personally led.
But do you see any kind of common things occurring amongst the companies that you invest in and the founders, that you almost like a recurring pattern that you see a lot of different people have problems with when they're starting up and trying to scale?
Yeah, I would say that yes, every founder is different. And so the things that they know, the things they need help on, their personalities. And so before I invest, I have to make sure that one, I totally believe in the problem they're trying to solve. I don't have to necessarily believe in it's nice to believe in the way they're going to solve it, but I invest so early that I'm often a part of that journey, and I'm in the stage where you're figuring it out. Right. So it's not just an idea, but you've built something, and like there's something there. People seem to like it. And now we're going to really like fine tune it and get it to where you're ready to now scale it. That's the phase that I kind of help in. And so all the founders that I choose to back and work with are people that I think are really smart, really clearly see their vision, their problem, their solution. And I feel like almost like I have almost a unique differentiation of why they are going to be the team to win, and know it's going to be hard work, and kind of can park their ego at the door and just try to win and have a really, really big time growth mindset. Because every single day as a founder, you're going to have to figure out something you have no idea how to do. And people who sort of get frozen in the face of that, or get defensive and pretend they know how to do something they don't know how to do, will not succeed. But people who are like, okay, now I need to go figure out this, like, who do you know who knows how to do this? And they can then, read a blog post, listen to a book, or talk to people and figure things out. Those are the people that we back. So that's a common theme. And then things that I think a lot of founders just really need help with, which once again, going back to my earlier story, we did as well, is really it's so much that has to get done. There's so many people, there's so many things, and really being their help and their guide to figure out, okay, what is critical and what is just, it's all okay. And sort of guiding them through that process. I say, I like to kind of, you're going down this dark hallway, and if I can turn the lights on that hallway for you, like, that's the job I want to do. I won't have the answers, but I want to be able to light up that path so that you can see more clearly and then navigate it well.
I think really it's about time management, because a lot of people, again, maybe they have got kids, maybe they have got parents,
Yeah.
husbands. A lack of time can be a real block, can't it? But there are very, very busy people doing incredible things, and there must be a knack to that. How do you do it for you, and perhaps how do you support your founders with making sure you have got that time?
Yeah, so I really work closely with founders to help them prioritize, so that, because you can't work 24/7, nor should you, nor do I think that's going to produce good work. So making sure that you're almost surgical, knowing exactly what matters most, and that you're attacking it head on, versus sometimes founders want to keep themselves busy because that feels productive.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you're like, oh, what a day, I was back to back meetings all day. It's like, that is dangerous. What you want to be doing is like, okay, here are the 3 things I have to solve, and spend your time against that, and making sure that you don't get caught up in the noise, and you're not spending your time on Twitter, and you're not going to a million conferences, and you're not, just meeting. It's like getting them really sharp on solving the problems they need to solve. I work closely with them on that. And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about, right? Like, here are the things that are going to make or break you. Let's talk about them. And a lot of those things are so daunting that, in a weird way, and I would argue we did this too in our early days of being a founder, you almost hide from them, because it's like, I don't know how to make this happen. It's like, right, but that's all we have to focus on. And so that may sound kind of counterintuitive, but sometimes the things that are the most important are so hard, you're more comfortable getting your logo done,
Yeah.
or attending a conference, versus signing up the retailers, because you're like, I don't know how to do it. I don't have control over that. It's like, I get it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about all the things. And so, like, just sort of being there for that, to face one, pointing, helping them understand what are those things, and then 2, just helping them face those big daunting tasks that are going to really be important. I guess my point is, yes, we all have children and husbands and friends and all that good stuff, and dogs and whatnot. And so, but like, when you are going to work, make it worthwhile.
There's a really good grid. I've written about it in the book and I've completely forgotten the name, but you have a grid of 4 and you have urgent, non-urgent, important, and non-important.
Yes.
And then
I
you,
love that grid. That's from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I
yes,
think. Yeah, that's where I got it from at least. And it's magic.
it's brilliant. And when you can sort of put your stuff down, you think, yeah, I've been focusing on the non-important, non-urgent because it's easy and it makes me feel busy. But that stuff in that top left box needs my attention.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you do a really good job living there, you get to stay out of urgent. I mean, I do my best work, and I kind of believe that most do their best work when something is really important, but not urgent. Because when you feel like, oh my God, I have to get this done by the end of the day, or we're going to blow, like that stress level is too high and you don't create as much optionality. So I work really hard with founders to try to keep them in the quadrant of important, not urgent. Because if you do that and you do it really well, then you don't get a lot creeping into important, urgent.
Which then I guess keeps everyone's stress levels down, and you don't make your best decisions from a point of stress.
No. And then you don't have time to figure out options, right? Like if this is really important, you don't want to have to know by the end of the day, right? Like
Yeah.
you want to like be able to understand all the options available, make the smartest call, figure out the best plan. Now, some things are just going to happen, right? Like when SVB suddenly was, having troubles and they're worried about making payroll, like of course that's going to be urgent. And there's no way you could have seen that coming. So I'm not saying that nothing will ever get into important urgent, but if you really manage your time well and your priorities well, I think founders can hopefully live in the important, not urgent quadrant first and foremost. And then eventually you get the other stuff taken care of too.
No, completely. Are there any other tips that you have got that you share with entrepreneurs or startups trying to make a really good path, make a really good business, things that you see happen over and over again, and just those tips that really do change the game for people?
Yeah, so I really work hard with founders to get them obsessively thinking about the stakeholders that are involved in their business. And what I mean by that is sometimes founders are almost too much in their own heads. And they're like, okay, I have this, I'm going to go sell this. And they go around and they say, hi, we are this, and we do this, and you should buy it, right? And it's like very much from their heads, and get them to kind of see the world. Like I say, put on the hat of who is your customer. Imagine you're your customer. Imagine you're the person you're, trying to get to buy. What are their worries? Like, don't come at them with who you are. Come at them with, hey, most people in your position are having trouble with A, B, and C, and are looking for a solution. They're like, oh my God, totally. That is stressing me out so much. It's like, okay, so that's why we designed XYZ. And so it's like, you meet them where they are, you really understand where their pain is, how you can deliver happiness or value to them. And a lot of times founders kind of aren't there because they're too in their own head about what they're building. So even the example I'll tell you of, like working with Lisa at Chroma, and that's who made the introduction.
I love
She
her.
had this amazing, she's incredible. She has this reset, right? And it's incredible reset. She's all about the reset, the cleanse, etc. And I was like, hey, Lisa, like anyone who does the reset falls in love with a few of these products, but you don't really make it easy to buy the products. Like you only have the reset. Why don't you actually let us buy those products individually? And then if you think about it, there might be people who aren't ready for a cleanse or reset or to make a $300 purchase, but hear that your matcha is amazing. They then can start with the matcha, and then they may be like, I'm going to try the reset. Like you don't in general, meet people where they are.
Yeah.
And then pull them to where you want them to get to. So I understand you want everyone to do the cleanse because it's magic and that's what you've really defined. But like, rather than just getting everyone to want the cleanse, like maybe you kind of, meet them into a place where they're like more intrigued with your products, and then they're taking baby steps to the cleanse, or they've done the cleanse and now it's not like, wait, I want this stuff, but now I can't buy it. And now, as you know, she has the cleanse and a host of just the most delicious products that you can use even when you're not in cleanse. And then I also explained to her, like, that's going to really increase the lifetime value of your customer. And it's right. So I don't take credit for her success. Her success is only her success. But it was like me illuminating her to, you're only really talking to people who are ready to do your cleanse. You want to try to meet people where they are and bring them to where you want them to be.
And I guess with that, from what you said as that example, if someone is drinking matcha anyway, you can kind of integrate them into that system. And that then, as you say, allows you to gain that trust, that like trust factor, which then allows you to promote other products that you think are going to really help their lives.
Yeah. And I think there's trust, but I think there's also, in general, most people are focused on themselves. They have a problem that they are looking to solve. Like maybe it's like, if someone wants to lose 50 pounds, you don't come at them and say, here's a liquid. I've made it from all these complex peptides, blah, 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 blah. You say, want to lose 50 pounds?
Yeah.
Try our peptide, right? So you like first have to like say, hey, I know your problem. And now I have a solution. And now that you're paying attention, I'm going to tell you more about my solution. A lot of times founders are just so into the solution that they built that they just come at you and say, I have this amazing peptide. And you're like, okay, I'm not looking for a peptide, so carry on. And you know what I mean? I'm using a stupid analogy, but like, hopefully you get my point. It's like, you have to really think about when people, where are they? What's on their mind? How do you meet them where they are? And then get them to see the beauty in what you have for them.
No, I think that's
it's really, I would say it's about empathy. It's like, it's sort of empathetic product, or, it's like when sometimes I do a review of the technology and I'm like, I wouldn't know where to click. And they're like, well, it's this button. I'm like, I don't even know what that word means. And it's like, they're so in their own minds. They've been talking amongst their team. Everything seems so obvious to them. But they haven't thought about it with someone with fresh eyes. So I constantly am telling my teams, like, lift yourself up. Think about it from, if you knew nothing, would this make sense? Would you know where to click? Would you know what to do? Would you want to buy this product? And so that's a lot of times, I think a founder is just so immersed in their world and spending 24/7 obsessing on it, that it's almost like a fish in water, where they're like, what water? It's like, so, it's like too obvious to them, forgetting that it's not obvious to the people outside.
No, I think that's a really, really good point. And one that, as you say, when people get too immersed in it, they can't see it. But if they take a step back or show it to a friend or work with a mentor, that's the kind of thing that they can highlight and go, I have no idea what that word means. It might be very technical because you know the technical detail, but as a normal person, I've no idea what you're talking about.
Exactly. And the one thing I do want to chime in on imposter syndrome is, I guess one of the best things that I just constantly tell people is like, we all have it. So like, get over it. Like, and I know that may sound like not empathetic, but it's like, of course we all question ourselves and don't know if we have it. But like, once you know that every single human has that, it feels like it's easier to deal with. I think that the biggest problem with imposter syndrome with founders is they think they're the only ones. And so that's like sort of normalizing that and say, there is literally not a founder under the sun that doesn't, or maybe human, I don't know, but definitely a founder who doesn't have imposter syndrome, because you're constantly making claims about this vision of the future. And so you haven't done it yet, right? Oftentimes imposter syndrome is like, I'm saying something, but it's not true yet. And that's kind of how a founder has to live, and getting them comfortable with, of course, that's how it is. There isn't a founder who doesn't have it. So don't let it bring you down. Just know that's part of the job.
I'm sure I was reading that Michelle Obama has got imposter syndrome, and I think she's an absolute legend. And
right.
I think when you look at people who have come out and said that they suffer with it, you look and you think, well, how could you possibly? You're an absolute icon. How could you possibly be anything apart from 100% confidence? But I think what you said is true. Everybody has it to different degrees. It's just when, and I think you're absolutely spot on by saying when you just acknowledge that everyone has it, it kind of isn't such a thing anymore.
I mean, truly, everyone has it too. I feel weird because I realize now, like, you asked me early on if I had it, and I was a little like, as if I didn't, but it's, of course I had it. I have it. Like, it depends what room you put me in, right? If I'm doing something I've done 100 times, I don't have it.
Yeah.
If I'm doing something for the first time, the third time, whatever, of course I have it. And as a founder, you are literally doing something every day that you've never done. So you're kind of living it. And so it's harder. I mean, when we were we were just launched, and I mean, we're in our 20s and whatnot, and like we end up being on Oprah. And it's like, of course I have imposter syndrome, right? Like who could be that person and not have that? I'd love to be that person, by the way. But like you just have to like be like, okay, here we go. It's good for the business. I'll be fine. But like it's like you almost have to just coach yourself.
Yeah.
I didn't have a coach back then. If I had a coach, I would have been coached. But yeah, so I do a lot of coaching to founders to let them know you've got this. Like you're as smart and qualified as any other human to figure this out. You got it.
No, I think you're again absolutely spot on again, and it's a really good point. And having those opportunities, going, well, I mean, you couldn't say no to Oprah; it would have been absolutely crazy. So you've got to sort of go, no, I can do this. It's fine, even if inside you're going, can we? Can I?
I know I can't do this. I can't do this. Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for hopping on Zoom as well.
Yeah, good luck with everything.
Take care. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah, right back at you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to this episode. I hope you've loved it. If you haven't got your book yet, just search You've Got This and my name, Ria Freeman, and you'll be able to find it everywhere at all good bookshops, online and in person. And to find out more about Jenny, go and have a look at freestyle.vc or follow her on LinkedIn. Just search Jenny Lefcourt and you will find her.